From my icy, lifeless hands it is. During the year 2002, Charlton Heston made his final appearance in front of the camera. This was about to be the most personal conflict that the man who had won an Oscar and parted the Red Sea was going to discuss with the world. When he started speaking, his words would crush hearts all around the United States of America, from marches for civil rights to epics produced in Hollywood. Heston had led a remarkable life up until that point. However, his final communication would be the one that would show the true nature of his character. On October 4th, 1923, Charlton Heston was born into this world. There are others who assert that he was born in Evanston, Illinois. Nevertheless, he has consistently maintained that it was no man's land, a neighboring region that evolved into a part of Wilmette. Even his name was a source of some ambiguity. In the official records, he was given the name John Charles Carter. However, there are reports that claim that immediately after his birth, he was listed as Charlton Carter. It was commonly known that his family was connected to the notorious clan Fraser and had Scottish and English ancestry. Russell Carter and Lilla Baines, his parents, led a life that was not particularly extravagant. There was a shortage of money, and Russell was employed at a sawmill. The family of Charlton relocated from the bustling suburbs of Chicago to a little rural community in the state of Michigan known as St. Helens when Charlton was a young boy. The life in the city was very different from this. There were just 13 students in the one-room school that Charlton attended. Since he was the only student in his class, he was forced to spend a significant amount of time by himself. Through the use of his imagination, he was able to construct his own stories and experiences because he did not have many companions. His passion for the great outdoors led him to spend countless hours in the woods, hunting and fishing. This peaceful and uncomplicated way of life instilled in him a deep appreciation for the natural world and helped him develop a strong sense of autonomy. When Charlton was 10 years old in 1933, his parents went through a divorce. It was his mother who, along with his siblings, brought him back to Illinois. A couple of years later, she tied the knot with a man whose name was Chester Heston. At this point, Charlton's name began to undergo a transformation. His mother ultimately adopted the surname of her new husband, and Charlton soon started using the Heston surname as well. Because he liked the name Charlton so much, he decided to use it in his professional life. The name Charlton originated from his grandmother's side of the family. In spite of this, his family and friends continued to refer to him as Chuck, which was a nickname derived from his given name, Charles. In high school, Charlton discovered that he had a passion for acting at New Trier, which is located in Winnetka, Illinois. He initially found that acting provided him with a means of evading the challenging aspects of his life. It allowed him to transform into a different person, which he claimed made him feel liberated. He put in a lot of effort in school plays, including one named Peer Gynt, to which he demonstrated a great deal of aptitude. His instructors took notice of his enthusiasm and urged him to continue with his endeavors. Although Charlton was also a football player, it was abundantly evident that acting was the activity that he enjoyed the most. Already, by the time he had his diploma, everyone were raving about how talented he was becoming. Charlton was awarded a scholarship to Northwestern University to study acting in the year 1941. For him, it was a significant step. He devoted a significant amount of his time to performing in plays, growing his abilities, and gaining a deeper understanding of the trade. The plays were not merely for the purpose of practice. People in the theater community in Chicago took notice of them because they exhibited a level of professionalism that was sufficient. In the meantime, the globe was undergoing transformations as a result of Globe War II, which contributed to the establishment of a solemn mood on campus. However, Charlton continued to concentrate on acting because he was aware that this was the path he desired to take with his life. It was a chance encounter in a theater class at Northwestern University in 1941 that marked the beginning of Charlton Heston's journey into love and ultimately into war. When he was only 17 years old, he was a student on a scholarship who worked nights as an elevator operator in order to make ends meet. Lydia was a fellow acting student who had striking dark curls and wide, expressive eyes. Despite the fact that he was fatigued from his job, he couldn't stop noticing Lydia. It wasn't a magical first encounter between them. Lydia was of the opinion that Charlton was conceited and superior to others. On the other hand, when she sought his guidance on acting, something was kindled by it. There followed a period of 3 years during which Charlton pursued Lydia, but she was not an easy person to win over. She was driven by ambition and did not want to be content with the role of a sidekick, particularly in light of the fact that the turmoil of World War II was drawing near. The wedding took place in Greensboro, North Carolina, on March 17, 1944, after some time had passed already. It was only 2 hours before the wedding, and it was held in a church. The ceremony was hurried and uncomplicated. She wore a lavender suit and a hat with flowers, both of which had cost her $50, which was a significant amount of money at the time. She sold the suit, the hat, and even her bag for a total of $10 2 years later in order to purchase a Christmas present for Charlton. However, life was difficult at the time. The kind of sacrifices that they made for one another are described below. After joining the service at the age of 20, Charlton was assigned to the position of radio operator and gunner on a B-25 bomber. In the icy and remote Aleutian Islands, he was stationed as a military installation. His job was fraught with peril. In the course of the sorties, he ensured that communication lines were open and operated the aircraft's armaments in order to fight against attacks. In the course of his combat missions over northern Japan, he frequently encountered severe weather and had limited visibility. One mistake might mean the end of everything. When he was hurt on base, he fell on ice and was ran over by an ambulance. This caused him to sustain injuries. He was forced to use a wheelchair for a period of time as a result of this, but it did not prevent him from wanting to participate in the battle. He was under the impression that he would be a part of a successful invasion of Japan, but that did not occur. Afterwards, Charlton acknowledged that he was thankful for the atomic explosions that brought an end to the war in 1945. His life was probably saved by it. Upon the conclusion of the war, Charlton and Lydia relocated to New York in order to pursue their ambitions of becoming actors. It was not a simple task. They had a meager monthly rent of about $30 and lived in a cramped apartment in a bad neighborhood. In order to take baths, they had to heat water on the stove because there was no hot water available. As a means of subsistence, they accepted jobs as models for artists, posing for pupils. They frequently did not have sufficient food to eat. Charlton was able to find work on occasion, although Lydia was not. Despite the fact that there were times when things went the other way, they remained united and faced every challenge with love and laughter. In 1947, Charlton was cast in a supporting role in a Broadway production of Antony and Cleopatra. This marked the beginning of a period of significant positive improvement. Not a significant role at all. The play was a major thing, with great actors like Katharine Cornell and Godfrey Tyrrell playing the key roles. He featured in the play as a minor character named Proculius, but the performance itself was a tremendous deal. As far as Charlton was concerned, it was a step in the right direction. Sharing the stage with players who had such a wealth of experience taught him a great deal. In addition, It instilled in him the self-assurance to proceed. After years of suffering, the Hestons were finally able to experience some measure of stability thanks to the play, which ran for a number of months. Charlton Heston's major break in Hollywood came in 1950 with the picture noir Dark City, which he had made when he was 26 years old. It was a fortunate coincidence that Montgomery Clift, who had been the first candidate for the character, decided to withdraw from consideration just a few days before production began. The intervention of Heston. I am making a speedy shift into the realm of professional filmmaking. However, the production certainly did not go off without a hitch. When the budget was reduced by 20% in the middle of the filming process, significant scenes had to be rewritten. Because Heston was so intent on demonstrating his worth, he labored diligently. He went so far as to give up his trailer and stay up late in order to figure out new lines. His unwavering commitment attracted the attention of seasoned actors, such as Elizabeth Scott and Vivica Lindfors, who went on to serve as his guides throughout the photography process. The toll that it had on him physically was something that stands out as one of the most remarkable aspects of his debut. During a pivotal combat sequence, Heston insisted on himself performing the stunts himself. The choice was quite costly for him. He suffered a dislocation of his shoulder and 2 shattered ribs, but he chose to remain silent about his injuries in order to minimize delays. The discomfort lent an air of realism to his act, which was discernible in a number of close-ups. Even when there are obstacles. Dark City was a commercial triumph for its day, earning $2.1 million at the box office. It was also the film that put Heston on the path to being a famous actor. His performance in Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth, which took place 2 years later, catapulted Heston's career to new heights. The manner in which he was cast in the role was just as unorthodox as the movie itself. The brave way in which Heston handled a circus elephant during a screen test left such an impression on DeMille that he offered him the starring part of Brad Braden, the manager of the circus. Over 1,400 individuals, an innumerable number of animals, and 85 trainloads of equipment were all involved in the making of the picture. In order to get himself ready, Heston spent 3 months immersed in the world of circuses, working alongside performers and employees from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus's respective organizations. Real hazards were posed to him. Among them were a lion that escaped from its cage and an accident that occurred on the trapeze that left him hanging 40 feet in the air. The movie was a huge success, earning more than $66 million worldwide and taking home the Academy Award for Best Picture. The critical acclaim that Heston received for his performance in the film helped to solidify his status as a leading man. The hard shoot that lasted for 10 months left him physically exhausted, and he was admitted to the hospital for a short period of time due to dehydration. When we look back, according to Heston, The Greatest Show on Earth was the movie that actually catapulted him to fame and laid the groundwork for the legendary roles he would go on to play. In the course of his career, Heston's friendship with DeMille emerged as a distinguishing characteristic. DeMille was regarded for being a demanding instructor who pushed actors to their absolute limits. It is well known that he had Heston reenact a sequence 47 times in a single day while they were working on the set of The Greatest Show on Earth. This rigorous approach, albeit being exhausting, helped to build a bond between the two of them. The actor was actively shaped by DeMille, who had faith in Heston's promise and played a significant part in his development. Even more, he counseled Heston on his nutrition and fitness routine, famously suggesting that he consume a daily mixture of raw eggs, wheat germ, and brewer's yeast in order to maintain his vitality. Their partnership achieved its pinnacle with the publication of the Ten Commandments in the year 1956. Given Heston's scant expertise in biblical epics, casting him in the role of Moses was a potentially risky move. For the purpose of preparation, DeMille dispatched Heston to spend a period of 6 weeks in the Sinai Desert. During this time, he learned how to cut stone tablets and studied ancient Hebrew. During that time period, the picture was the most costly movie ever made, with a production cost of $13 million. Heston gave the job his complete and undivided passion. For a period of 3 months, he grew his own beard and hair, refusing to use synthetic ones since he wanted it to have a genuine appearance. The famous scene in which Moses divides the Red Sea was replicated twice due to the fact that the first time it was filmed, a camera malfunctioned and destroyed everything. During the second attempt, it took a year to perfect, and it required more than 360,000 gallons of water. During the filming of the movie in Egypt, Heston came dangerously near to being crushed by a stone prop that weighed 1,000 pounds but missed him by a few inches. With a total of $122.7 million in revenue, the film became an enormous success, which is equivalent to more than $1.2 billion in today's currency. The performance that he gave left a lot of people feeling so moved that they thought he was meant to assume the role of Moses. Ben-Hur, which was released in 1959, was another film that smashed records. Heston appeared in it. Over 50,000 people contributed to the production of the film, which took almost a year to complete. In order to get ready for the role, Heston lost weight and spent 15 weeks learning how to get behind the wheel of a chariot. The chariot racing scene, which is considered to be one of the most iconic in the history of film, was shot over the course of 10 weeks and was extremely hazardous. His stunts were performed by Heston, and during one of them he was pushed from his chariot and came dangerously close to being trampled by horses. In spite of the fact that he had injuries such as a dislocated jaw and damaged ligaments, he continued to compete. The fact that a stuntman had passed away while filming was revealed several years later, despite the fact that it had been kept a secret. Best Picture and Best Actor for Charlton Heston were among the 11 Academy Awards that were awarded to the film, which was a record at the time. At the box office, it grossed a total of $146.9 million, which corresponds to more than $1.4 billion today. While delivering a speech on the subject of civil rights, even President John F. Kennedy made reference to the film. Because Heston was so pleased with his participation in the film, he decided to donate all of the money he made from it to a charitable organization. He stated that the experience itself was more valuable than the money he received. Not only were Heston's films commercially successful, but they also broke new territory. Tens of thousands of costumes, extras, and animals were utilized in the production of the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur in order to bring their epic stories to life successfully. All by itself, the chariot race in Ben-Hur cost $4 million, which was more than the majority of movies at the time spent on their entirety. 1964's The Agony and the Ecstasy was a film that Michelangelo was portrayed by Heston, who, in preparation for the role, studied to paint and sculpt. As part of the production of the film, the producers even spent 18 months recreating the Sistine Chapel. He was in charge of large battle scenes in the 1961 film LCD, which had over 7,000 extras and 10,000 animals.